We have really great sponsors with us, such as the Partnership and Dr. Yanez. What I want to know is, we have Morning Buzz, and I want to know if Obama's coming for our guns.
And you know, we have here John Wood Jr. from the Republican Party of LA County, and he's going to try to help us make light of what's going on now.
Well, you know, I really don't think that the president is necessarily coming for our guns. I think what he's trying to do is to have an impact on a situation where we've had so many high-profile mass shootings in recent years, going all the way back from Columbine to Aurora to Newtown to more recently Sandy Hook, Charleston, and so forth. And I think that the president is, you know, and I think he's sincere about this. We saw him get emotional in his remarks, and I think he's responding.
I think he got an Oscar nomination for that one.
You think so?
I think so.
Well, at the very least, he's responding to substantial outcry from the public. People want to see this impact, this situation impacted, and so he's trying to put something on the table in an executive capacity, because apparently he can't get Congress to go along with his agenda on the issue. He's trying to do something to impact the situation. My take is that I think that he's got the best of intentions. I don't imagine that the regulations they're putting forth are going to do much to keep people.
Right, because it's just an executive action versus executive orders, and you can't act on something that you don't have backed up.
Well, no, he'll be able to put this into effect. I don't doubt that. But ultimately, what it's doing is it's expanding the requirement for background checks to people who sell guns online and at gun shows, who in certain cases did not have to put background checks in place on their customers previously.
So the Republican Party is really in charge of Congress. So where's their stance on all this? I mean, here's the president trying to make these changes.
Most Republicans feel that this is going to be an ineffective measure. Because again, I mean, if you're talking about criminals are generally going to go around the law anyway.
But some people, and we have mental health issues. So we have thugs shooting others, innocents and other thugs, and then we have mental health issues that we're really not dealing with I think.
Right, and from what I understand, I think that part of the president's overall initiative does involve putting some more money back into mental health and so forth. You know, there's this argument over are the guns the problem, or is it mental health? Is mental health the issue?
Monrovia High School recently, we had a kid who was the loner throw, I think it was a cocktail, however you say it, but it did an extreme amount of damage to the school. Set it on fire. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a gun.
Let me just make a fundamental point here. The more guns that are in society, obviously, if you don't have any checks or regulations at all, the easier it's going to be for criminals to get a hold of guns. That having been said, the things that they're putting on the table currently would not have stopped most, if any, of the major mass shootings that we've seen in recent memory. Most of the shooting deaths that occur in America happen in inner cities. They happen in places like Chicago, and unfortunately South Central Los Angeles, where I'm from. And what we have to realize is that a lot of the things that prompt crime are drug-related. They're economically related, because when you have economic downturns, obviously you have a situation wherein people are more likely to turn to crime because there's a lack of economic opportunity, lack of educational opportunity. I just feel like we take such a narrow look on this issue when we only focus on guns. I'm not saying not to put in place common sense gun regulations. I think that's a good thing, but its impact will always be very limited in comparison to the broader impact that simply solving a lot of these bigger societal problems would have in terms of tamping down the atmosphere in our country that lends itself to gun violence on a massive scale, particularly in the inner cities where it's foremost the issue.
Have we considered the other side? I mean, I personally don't think guns is a problem. I think we should control ammunition.
There you go.
Regulate it.
I heard a comedian say that if we charge $5,000 for a bullet.
That was Chris Rock.
That was Chris Rock.
That was a good one. I like that one. But but literally, you know, controlling ammunition, having people sign for it, having people sign for a certain amount. And guess what? You need to turn the casings back in. If you sign for 100 and you only turn 99
well,
in.
you know, you found an interesting loophole around the Second Amendment, sir. I have to give you that, Scotty. It says you have a right to bear arms, but it doesn't say you have a right to own bullets, right? So is that where you're going with it?
We can audit that system.
Right.
You can audit that system. You can control ammunition. When you buy more, you have to turn stuff in. So if you're not turning 50 in, you can't get 50 back.
Right.
Eventually, you're going to run out. You're going to have to fill out a lot of paperwork.
Or they're going to be doing bows and arrows.
Well, you know, it's an interesting
Bows and arrows.
it's an interesting thought. There are all sorts of things that you can put on the table. And again, I'm all for common sense regulation. There's some argument in terms of what is or is not common sense. I think that what the president is suggesting is probably going to be marginal in its effectiveness at best. But again, you know, we do have a right to bear arms. It's enshrined in the Constitution.
I'm all for it.
Right. And ultimately, I think what we have to understand is whether it's mental health, whether it's frankly drugs, education, crime, poverty, there are all sorts of factors which go into setting the stage for gun violence in the way that we've seen it in America. And I think that we ought to be willing to take a multi-pronged approach, not just in terms of setting policy, but in terms of the way we pursue the larger conversation that addresses all of the issues involved, as opposed to just gun regulations or one thing or the other.
John, thanks for being on with us. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
A lot of good topics there we're covering.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
He went on an ultimate ride and ended up in a jail.
Dr. Noel Arthur is going to come on and tell us about his ride and how it went really, really bad. Next.